The first thing I noticed was her perfume. Not the scent itself. Rachel always wore the same light, floral fragrance, something she said reminded her of spring in Charleston, but where I noticed it. It clung to the passenger seat of her SUV like an echo of her presence, faint yet unmistakable. She hadn't given me a ride in weeks. At first, it was nothing. A stray whiff of her perfume, I told myself, was normal. But then there were other things. Subtle changes. Little cracks in the routine of our marriage that, when pieced together, began to form a picture I didn't want to see. Rachel and I had been married for 12 years. We had built a quiet, comfortable life together, a modest 2-story home near the Ashley River, evening walks along the historic streets, weekends spent with friends or at the farmer's market downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it was ours. And yet lately, she felt elsewhere. It started with late nights at work. Rachel was a marketing manager at a boutique hotel downtown. Stressful hours were part of the deal. But when a quick meeting turned into a 10 p.m. return, night after night, it became harder to ignore. Then there was her phone. Always face down. Always locked. And always within reach, even when she went to shower. The final straw came one Thursday evening when I came home early from my carpentry shop. I'd been working on a custom dining table for a wealthy client and finished ahead of schedule. I thought I'd surprise her with dinner and a bottle of the Pinot Noir we'd been saving. But when I opened the door, the house was empty, no Rachel, no sign she'd been home all day. On the counter, her coffee cup sat half-drained, lipstick smudged along the rim. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No texts. I waited. I told myself she'd just lost track of time at work. But then, at 8:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. Rachel, hey, running late. Don't wait up. Love you. The message was short, clipped. Too formal somehow. And that's when my stomach sank. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Rachel humming softly in the kitchen. She was cheerful, maybe too cheerful. Morning, she said with a quick smile, sliding a mug toward me. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands falling around her face. She wore one of my old college sweatshirts, the same one she used to steal back when we were dating. It was the image of comfort, of normalcy. But I couldn't stop thinking about that text from last night. Late night? I asked, keeping my tone casual. Rachel hesitated for just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. Yeah, the hotel's rolling out this new campaign. It's been chaos. She grabbed her phone off the counter, slipping it into her purse as if it were a reflex. But it's good. We're close to finalizing everything. I nodded, sipping my coffee. The bitterness burned my tongue. Something about the way she avoided my eyes made my chest tighten. For the next week, the pattern repeated. Rachel was always working late. Always tired. Always careful with her phone. I started to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. One night, unable to sleep, I sat in the living room scrolling through old photos on my phone. There we were on Sullivan's Island, laughing as the wind whipped through our hair. Rachel in her sundress, holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. We used to be us. Now. I wasn't sure who she was anymore. That's when I made a decision, one I never thought I'd make. The next day, I drove to her work during lunch. The hotel was bustling, valets running back and forth, tourists snapping photos of the grand entrance. I parked across the street and waited. At 12:45 p.m., Rachel walked out. But she wasn't alone. A tall man in a tailored navy suit followed her, laughing at something she said. Rachel reached up and touched his arm lightly, an intimate, casual touch that made my gut clench. I told myself it was nothing. A colleague. A boss. Anything but what it looked like. But then he leaned in, whispering something in her ear, and Rachel's face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. She looked alive. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They walked to his black BMW and got in together. Not a word to me. Not even a glance back. I followed them. God help me, I did. The BMW weaved through traffic, eventually pulling into a quiet street lined with old oak trees draped in Spanish moss. Picturesque Charleston. I hung back, heart pounding, as they parked in front of a small, charming brick townhouse. Rachel got out first, glancing around nervously before he joined her. And then, right there on the sidewalk, he kissed her. It wasn't a peck. It was long. Deep. Hungry. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. She didn't pull away. She kissed him back like she'd been starving for it. I drove home in a haze, my hands trembling on the wheel. The world around me felt wrong, too bright, too loud. The Charleston streets I'd known all my life seemed foreign. When Rachel came home later, she smelled of her usual perfume, her hair slightly tousled. She smiled like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just ripped my heart out hours earlier. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kicking off her heels. "Long meeting." I stared at her, forcing my face into something resembling normal. "Yeah," I said flatly. "I bet." That night, while she showered, I went through her phone. I hated myself for it, but I had to know. The texts were there. Hundreds of them. "Mark, miss you already. Last night was incredible. Rachel, me too. Can't stop thinking about you. Mark, next week, my place again. Rachel, God, yes. I can't wait." My vision tunneled. Every word felt like a dagger. She'd been lying to me for months. The next message made my blood run cold. "Mark, when are you telling him?" "Rachel, soon. I promise. Just, not yet." My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning to leave me. The next morning, I went to work like nothing was wrong. I built furniture with the same care as always, smiling at customers, joking with my employees. But inside, I was a storm. Rage, hurt, betrayal, all swirling together, impossible to contain. I didn't confront Rachel. Not yet. Instead, I planned. If she thought she could dismantle our marriage in secret, she had another thing coming. I would end this on my terms. The following Thursday, Rachel told me she had another late meeting. I kissed her goodbye, pretending everything was fine, and watched her drive off. Then I followed her, again. This time, I parked a block away and waited until I saw her slip into Mark's townhouse. The curtains were open just enough for me to see silhouettes moving inside. Her laugh floated out through a cracked window. My chest burned. 12 years of love, trust, and memories, gone in an instant. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream or fight. Not yet. Instead, I went home and set the stage. I lit candles. Cooked her favorite meal. Opened a bottle of wine. When Rachel walked through the door later that night, her hair slightly messy, she froze at the sight of the romantic setup. "What's all this?" she asked, her voice careful, almost guilty. I smiled. "Our anniversary's next month. I thought we could celebrate early." Relief washed over her face. She laughed, dropping her purse. "That's so sweet, babe. We ate dinner, we drank wine, we talked, like old times." I didn't let her see the darkness beneath my calm. Later, when she was asleep, I packed her things into suitcases and left them by the front door. On top of them, I placed her phone, unlocked, with every incriminating message displayed. When she woke up the next morning, I was gone. So was my wedding ring. But I didn't leave completely empty-handed. Before she could destroy me, I'd emptied our joint savings account, every last dollar. I watched from my truck parked down the street as Rachel stumbled onto the porch, suitcase in hand, screaming my name. Her lover, Mark, pulled up minutes later, confused and panicked. I didn't stay to watch them sort through the wreckage. As I drove away, the Charleston sunrise lit up the sky in shades of gold and red. The city was beautiful, as always. But to me, it felt like ashes. For the first time in months, I felt free. The engine hummed beneath me as I drove aimlessly through the winding streets of Charleston. Spanish moss draped from the ancient oaks like funeral veils, the pastel-colored houses of the historic district glowing softly under the morning sun. This was the city where Rachel and I had fallen in love. We had our first date at a seafood shack by the pier, shared our first kiss under the Ravenel Bridge, signed the papers for our first home at a tiny law office downtown. And now, it was the backdrop to the death of our marriage. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Everything felt hollow, the streets, the houses, even the sunlight. I'd expected to feel triumphant when I left Rachel standing on that porch, suitcase in hand, with Mark swooping in like some pathetic knight in shining armor. But the only thing I felt was empty. I drove out to Sullivan's Island, to the same quiet stretch of beach where Rachel and I had spent countless weekends. The tide was low, the sand cool beneath my boots. I sat on a weathered driftwood log and watched the waves roll in. The ocean had a way of making everything seem small, my anger, my heartbreak, even Rachel's betrayal. I thought about the last 12 years, trying to pinpoint where we'd gone wrong. Had it been me? Had I been too focused on my work, on building a future for us, to notice she was slipping away? Or had Rachel simply changed? People did. Love did. Maybe it wasn't one moment. Maybe it was 1,000 tiny fractures that finally split wide open. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Rachel. Rachel, please. We need to talk. I'm sorry. Just come home. We can fix this. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. Fix this. As if what she'd done could be patched up with an apology and some tears. I deleted the message without replying. That evening, I went back to the house one last time. Rachel's car was gone, and so were her suitcases. The place felt eerily quiet. I walked through each room slowly, memories pressing down on me like ghosts. The kitchen, where we used to cook together. The living room, where we'd spent lazy Sundays curled up on the couch. The bedroom, where she'd been thinking of him while lying next to me. I stripped the sheets, balled them up, and tossed them into the trash. I couldn't stand to look at them another second. Then I packed my own bags. I didn't know where I was going yet, just that I couldn't stay here anymore. 2 weeks passed. I rented a small apartment above my workshop, throwing myself into work during the day and whiskey at night. I barely slept, barely ate. My friends noticed, of course. Matt, my oldest friend, came by one afternoon while I was sanding down a cabinet. You look like hell, he said, crossing his arms. Thanks, I muttered. You gonna tell me what's going on? I hesitated, then told him everything. The late nights. The texts. The other man. The way I'd walked out, leaving Rachel to pick up the pieces. Matt listened quietly, his jaw tightening. When I finished, he shook his head. Damn, man. I knew something was off, but I didn't think, he trailed off. You sure you don't want to? I don't know, fight for her. I laughed bitterly. Fight for what, Matt? She made her choice. But Rachel wasn't done with me. Not by a long shot. She started showing up at my workshop, standing outside like a ghost. Sometimes she'd wait for hours, hoping I'd come out and talk to her. One night, she cornered me as I was locking up. Please, she begged, tears streaming down her face. Just let me explain. I stared at her, at the woman I used to love more than anything in this world. She looked different now, not just physically, but inside. Explain what? I said coldly. That you've been screwing some guy behind my back for months. That you were planning to leave me. Her face crumpled. It wasn't like that. It started as just talking. I was lonely, and you were always working, and he. Don't you dare blame this on me, I snapped. You had a choice, Rachel. And you chose him. For a moment, silence hung between us. Then Rachel whispered, I made a mistake. No, I said, my voice breaking. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This, I gestured between us. This was a decision. Over and over again. I turned and walked away, leaving her sobbing in the parking lot. The divorce papers came a month later. I signed them without hesitation. Rachel tried to fight me on the house, on the money, on everything, but she didn't have a leg to stand on. Her affair had destroyed her credibility. In the end, I kept the house, the business, and most of our savings. All she had left was Mark. Or so I thought. One evening, as I was closing up the shop, Matt came by again, looking uneasy. You're not gonna believe this, he said. What? It's about Rachel. And that guy. Mark. I froze. What about them? Matt scratched the back of his neck. Apparently, he's married. With kids. My stomach dropped. What? Yeah. Word is, his wife found out and kicked him out. Rachel's been blowing up his phone, but he won't answer. Guess he wasn't planning to leave his family after all. A bitter laugh escaped me. So she blew up her life, for nothing. Matt's expression softened. You okay, man? I thought about it for a moment. Surprisingly, the answer was yes. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt free. A week later, I heard through mutual friends that Rachel had left Charleston altogether. No one knew where she went. No one cared enough to ask. As for me, I stayed. I rebuilt my life, piece by piece, like one of the tables in my shop. Some scars never fully heal. But every day, the pain faded a little more. Months later, on a quiet spring morning, I walked along that same stretch of beach on Sullivan's Island. The sun was rising, casting golden light over the water. I thought about Rachel, about who we used to be, about how it had all fallen apart. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger or grief. Just peace. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. Some things are meant to be let go. I slipped off my wedding ring, the one I'd kept tucked away all this time, and hurled it into the waves. It sank beneath the surface without a trace. As the tide washed over my feet, I turned and walked away, ready to start again.